Who here's ready to make some magic? Hey everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Making Magic with Dano, a new monthly series here on the Dano channel where I will be making a different arts and crafts project based on a different Disney movie each month. So first, I've got to give a great big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Without you, this wouldn't be happening. And the cool part about this video series is every month, the project that I create, I'm going to be giving away to one of my lucky patrons. So if you want any more info on that, there is definitely a link down in the description below. But for now, let's get on to the craft. Now for my very first project, I figured, why not go with the very first Disney movie, Snow White? Seriously, I can't believe this movie is almost 80 years old. 80 years old and it still holds up. Now for the type of project I'm going to be doing this month, I'm going to be doing screen printing. So this is both a DIY tutorial to teach you guys how to screen print, and also you guys get to just watch me do my thing like I normally do here on the Dano channel. Now there are many different ways to screen print. You could do a screen filler and drawing fluid kind of method. There's also another method that is a photo emulsion using light to create your screen pattern. You can also do stencil cut. Now for today's video, just to keep it simple, I'm going to cover just the one type of way we're doing stencil cut. Now to save time on the video, I've gone ahead and put a list of all the items that you'll need down in the description below, so be sure to check there. You'll have everything you need, everything that I use in this project. So, for this project, I had to come up with a design. I wanted something cool, I wanted it fun, and I wanted it to be Snow White. So I figured I'm going to be making t-shirts. Why not have it say literally Snow White? What I decided to do is use the apple shape, you know that apple that she has? Actually, here's a better picture of it. I decided to do something with the apple, kind of write the word Snow White in there, and I did a couple drafts of it just to kind of play around and see how I wanted it to work. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut out what is in red, and what's in red on this page here is going to become my design on my screen print. There are a few different makers of the stencil cut film that you can use in screen printing. The one that I use is called Blick Speedy Squeegee film. Now this one is a little bit different because it's a green film. It's a little bit harder to get a hold of these days, or at least in a large roll like that. But it is a green film with two sides. There is a side that is very, very shiny. This is not the side you'll be cutting. There's a side that you can feel is a bit softer and has more of a dull look to it. That's the side that we're going to be using an X-Acto knife to cut our design out of. Now, generally what I'll end up doing is I will tape my film over my design, and I will use that to cut out all of the area that I want to be painted. Most of the supplies I got for this project were found in a kit made by Speedball that I picked up at Michael's Arts and Crafts. The kit ranges from about $40 up to $150 depending on how fancy you want to get, how big of a screen you want, or if you want one that comes with the photo emulsion. Most art stores will carry either silk that you can put on your own stretchers, or you can find a pre-stretched screen to apply your design to. Now, one thing I have to stress is if you are going to a place like Michael's Arts and Crafts, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, download the app and use the coupon. There's almost always at least a 40% off, if not 50% off coupon that you can use, and it's there on your phone. All you have to do is show them the app and you can get a good discount. So just make multiple trips. Go every day, and no joke, I've done that. It saves a lot of money when it comes to making this stuff, so I'm just giving the tips to you guys. If you don't have access to any pre-stretched screens, you can make your own. There are a lot of art stores that will just sell the silk on their own. What you would need then is a staple gun, some staples, and the actual wooden stretchers, which you can just buy picture frame stretchers, glue them together so you have your nice big rectangle. And if you guys look close here, you can see that this is just a piece of silk that has been stapled on. So you just kind of go in and staple it and make sure it's nice and tight. And that way, you can apply all your designs to it. You can take a look at some of my old ones here from high school. This is a pirate, I've got Billy Idol, English Beat, crazy stuff. There is also a different method of getting your silk to stay on the stretcher, and these have rope in them. I don't know if you can kind of see it in there, but there's a rope that you actually press down into the grooves of the wood, and that's what keeps tension on the silk. So when you're done, say I wanted to use a different piece of silk, I could remove that rope on all four sides here and just remove the whole screen and put in a whole new fresh piece of silk. Okay, now what you need to do is cut yourself a piece of film that is big enough to cover your stencil
but not so big that it doesn't fit within your stretcher. Alright, now you do have to be careful with this film because there is a right and a wrong side on which you want to cut and which you want to put down. Be sure that the glossy side is on the bottom and your dull, softer side is right on top. Now as you're cutting, you want to make sure you're only cutting out the portions that you want to have ink or paint on them.
Okay, for the method that I will be using, I'm using Ulano Sta-Sharp Adhering liquid. Now this is basically gasoline. This is very flammable, and you want to make sure that when you're doing this, you do it in a well-ventilated area, or if you are in a smaller area, make sure to at least open your windows and get one of these little breathing masks. This will it just keeps you safe. That way you don't pass out while trying to make your art projects. Now the way that this adhering liquid works is it actually melts the green film onto your screen. So once you've got your design cut out, you want to get like a dirty rag, an old sock, something like that, and use that to apply right on the top of your screen. It melts kind of the top layer and gets it to stick to the pores of the silk. Now as you're applying the liquid, you can kind of see that the stencil itself will get darker. That means that it's wet and will have a better likelihood of sticking to the silk. Once you've got enough spread on your design, you want to make sure you let this dry for a few hours. If you can do a whole half day or even a full day, let it sit for a full day before you come back and try to remove the backing from the silk. Patience is definitely the key here. You can't just adhere it, hope it's dry, and remove it, because you'll end up removing part of your stencil, and then you have to go back in and try and fix it with something like masking tape, which gets a little bit tricky if you're not too skilled with an X-Acto knife. You guys might be able to see here in one of my old designs, I had to actually go in myself with masking tape and cut little bits that didn't adhere properly because I wasn't patient. Once your screen is dry, it's the moment of truth. This is the most nerve-wracking part of the entire screen printing process. So now you've got your design stuck to the silk. You need to remove that clear plastic backing so that you can actually squeegee paint through it. The best thing I would do is get a very fine pointed X-Acto knife that is not dull, that isn't broken like this one, and start to lift up the corner of your film until you can kind of slowly start to pull it back. And as you pull it back, definitely keep an eye out for any pieces that are sticking, because that green design, if it didn't adhere correctly to the silk, it will stick to the clear plastic backing, and that's something you're going to have to repair later.
See what I'm saying, guys? If you rip it off too quickly, you will definitely do some damage to your stencil. The best way to fix it is to cut out tiny little pieces of masking tape and fill in those missing gaps. Once you're done, use masking tape to block off all edges so no ink comes through.
Alright guys, this is it. Next thing we're going to do is put down our different inks. In this case, I'm going to be using a red fabric screen printing ink. You can also use just acrylic paint, though qualities will vary, so you want to do a little bit of research before you use whatever craft paint you can find. But it depends on what you want and how professional you want your project to look. What we'll do is we'll put a small line of ink on the inside of the screen, and we'll take our squeegee, and we'll actually squeegee that out. You don't want to do this too many times, because the more times you squeegee over your design, the more likely you are to end up with smudges in your work. So you want to make sure you're pressing down on the screen firmly. I like to lay my entire arms over it just to make sure it's very, very firm and has a smooth surface like a magazine or a book underneath it, or even just a really clean countertop. Well guys, I think the shirt's looking pretty good. It's got a nice red design, the shape of the apple, says Snow White right down the middle. I even tested it out on a black t-shirt just to see if it would look just as good, make sure the design popped in the same way, and it looks pretty nice. But it's still kind of missing something. I mean, it's very plain. So you know what, let's take it up a notch. I actually have some green glow-in-the-dark paint, and if you may have noticed, I did create another screen print design. So let's come right back after the break and we'll make this thing magical.
Okay guys, welcome back to Making Magic with Dano. As we're getting ready to put our second design here, you want to make sure you are super careful and you align your edges over the original design. If not, you will end up with a messed up screen and a messed up design, and also a messed up t-shirt. So just be super careful. Luckily I'm using a bold color like red underneath, which makes it a little bit easier to see, but it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing is if you're using glow-in-the-dark paint, cheap stuff just like this, make sure that you shake it really well. And another thing you want to do is make sure you put enough paint. If you don't put enough paint, then you're going to have to squeegee over this so many times. So make sure you put enough paint or ink or whatever it is that you're using, just to make sure you get good and equal coverage when it comes time to actually squeegee everything down. Here we go. Notice I'm putting a lot of weight with my arm there. We're going to squeegee it. And it looks pretty beautiful. I think we're good. Now it's going to be time to lift this bad boy up, and let's see how it looks. Now this works out great because it is a lighter colored ink. It doesn't show up so much on the light design shirt. When I tried it with a different thicker ink on this darker shirt, you can definitely see that it completely covers my original design and almost ruins the point of having the letters on there. It looks great though, so I'm kind of torn as to how I want to continue with it. Do I want to do the light or the dark shirts? Now the best part about glow-in-the-dark paint is testing it out and seeing it glow. So I've got a nice lamp here, and let's just cut the lights out. Oh, that looks amazing. I love it. That looks really, really cool.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm just about ready to hit the park, especially at night. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. An extra big thank you to my Patreon supporters who made this possible. If you want to take part in the magic next month, be sure to check down in the links below for my Patreon, or you can click the top right corner and vote for what you think next month's project should be. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed making magic with me this month. Be sure to subscribe and come back every month for a brand new art project inspired by a different Disney movie. I hope I've inspired you guys to try something new. Create your own t-shirt designs. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions. Check the description for a list of materials that I used in this project. Take your magic wands out and hit that little like button for me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.